Hi there, smart drivers. Talking to you about long road trips. What do you need to do? What do you need to put in place? And how do you need to pack? And one of the things that I thought about today, going into the United States, is I need medical insurance. So I had to rush down and get medical insurance to go into the United States because you're not covered with Canadian health care. You have to get special insurance to go into the United States. Yes, and Carrie, I did send you a text message, but I don't think you got the text message. So I am delayed a day, Carrie. So if Friday's going to work for you, let me know about that. I do apologize. Yes, actually, Marion, in the pre-show there, that's actually Izzy Bear. That's not Striker. Out on the log there with me. So yeah, so Carrie, it's going to be Friday. I'm going to be in Minnesota if that works for you. So let me know. Unfortunately, I got delayed today. So yes, so road trips, medical health insurance, prescription medication. One of the things, my daughter went away for a couple of months. She's on prescription medication, and we had to make sure that she had enough prescription medication for the time that she was away. So this is another piece that you need to keep in mind when you're traveling. And of course, I'm driving the van, I'm not driving the buggy, and usually I shoot videos in the buggy, so then I've had to make all these modifications to the van. I had to go and buy an adapter for a USB plug because it's got the 9-volt, the old cigarette lighter plugs for the van. And so I had to go and buy one of those. I just went to the library and got my audiobooks because I got to listen to audiobooks, and I got a Jack Reacher novel. I'm very excited about that. I love the Jack Reacher novels. And the other novel that I got was The Z Wars. I saw the movie with Brad Pitt, and I'm excited to listen to the novel. And one other Michael Crichton novel, I believe it was, because as I was saying this morning, I listen to audiobooks when I'm driving on long road trips, and nonfiction doesn't cut it. I've tried to listen to nonfiction, and I can tell you another story about the fact that I did listen to nonfiction when I went back driving truck in 2016, but for the most part, it has to be fiction. It has to be a good, engaging novel for those long hours of driving on the interstate. Now, that's what we need to do. That's what we're in the middle of right now, so this is really good that I can talk to you about long road trips, give you some tips and skills. If you're not able to change a tire, which there is nothing wrong with that because we do not live in that world anymore where we grew up in the backyard helping dad fix cars in the garage and those types of things. So if you're not good at that, then get a CAA, get a BCAA membership, a AAA, Automobile Association of America. It's only about $100 a year, and they will come out and change the tire. They will bring you fuel if you run out of fuel and those types of things. Marion, no, it's me by myself on this trip. Scout went to Grandma's at the beginning of July, and my son was in Germany with his mom, and he is flying back on Thursday to Ontario to my mom's place. So both are already in Ontario. So this is a solo trip, me by myself, and I'm meeting up with Carrie in Minnesota there, hopefully on Friday, and I'm meeting up with Elevator Fan there on Saturday in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So that is all going to be very exciting, meeting up with some people that I've only met through the channel here, and actually have a conversation, maybe sit down, have a beverage. That will all be lovely. So yeah, it's just me. We're not listening to Sidekicks again. I was telling the story this morning that Corey's put up the video on how to change a flat tire. Thank you for that, Corey. That in 2018, I believe, we did our first road trip down to Washington State where we helped Jen with her low vision. She was going for a driver's test again and getting her driver's license back. So we jumped in the car. We drove down to Washington State. And the book that I picked up, the audiobook at that time, was a book called Sidekicks. And it's literally about sidekicks, like Batman and Robin kind of thing. And we listened to that book at that time. And it's a teenage novel, with some funny puberty stuff in it and those types of things. And we listened to it, and I bet you we have listened to that particular book on every road trip that we have gone on since that time. It is one of the traditions of my kids and I of listening to Sidekicks. And I'm certain that when I get home, we're driving to Montreal, which is 8 hours from where my mom lives, for a wedding at the end of August. I'm certain that my daughter will somehow find that book from the library or purchase it online or whatnot. So we'll be listening to it again at the end of the summer. Excellent. Yes, I'm looking forward to shooting the videos. It's going to be really great being there in the States. Evan, only driving the bicycle for 200 feet and the line is broken. By the way, park at least drains width from the curb. It is better to park a little too far than too close. Actually, Evan, it's actually a drains width is too far. The curb is about 8 to 10 inches from the curb. If you can get within that 8 to 10 inches, that's going to make you safer with other people. So Rawson, hello, my friend. We're tuning in from Ohio, and I'm going to Ohio too. I'm going to just need to check with work about switching the days to Friday. We'll email you tomorrow, but thinking most likely that will work. Okay, awesome. I'm happy to hear that, Carrie. I'm sorry that you didn't get my text message. I did send it yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before? But I'll email you just to confirm that it is indeed Friday. So I do apologize about that, because I know you switched up work and those types of things. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to Toledo, Ohio. For those of you who haven't been to Toledo, Ohio, it's where Klinger's from. There's your Trivial Pursuit question today. Who's Klinger? Awesome. Okay, so talking about road trips, first thing you need to do is you need to check your vehicle out. If you're not handy, you don't know how to check the fluid levels in your vehicle, your power steering, your radiator fluid, brake fluid, engine oil, and windshield washer fluid, all those things underneath the hood, take it into a technician and get a technician to check it over, okay? I have the van fully prepped. I've checked the tires. If you don't have a tire pressure monitoring system on your vehicle, vehicles after like 2012 all have tire monitoring pressure systems on them, and will automatically tell you if you have low pressure in one of your tires. If you don't have that, then you need to get yourself a pressure gauge and you need to check the pressure in the tires. I've done that with the van. I've rotated the tires on the van as well, because as you know, I've told you, my brother and I bought the van from my mom, and of course it needed a little bit of work done to it. We put a new wheel bearing in it, and this was something that I did weeks ago, and Mallory was saying this morning, don't wait to the last minute to get your vehicle checked out, right? Like me kind of running around doing last minute things today and those types of things. Get it done weeks before, and I got this done weeks before, and they found out the wheel bearing, and the only way that you could figure out that the wheel bearing is going right is a technician's going to have to do that sort of thing. It was like I had an upper control arm that was gone on the buggy a couple of years ago, and they jacked it up and then they wiggle the wheel to see whether it moves or not, right? So I had to have that fixed as well. So plan accordingly, get your vehicle into the shop early so that way they can go through it and they can make sure that everything is going to work, right? They're going to tell you that your brakes are good, your tires are good, they don't need to be replaced, they're not unevenly worn and those types of things. So take it in, get it fixed. Emily, I did my road ready service at Canadian Tire before I took my road trip and everything went very well, and that is awesome. Excellent. Marion, you guys are so lucky to meet up with Rick, so jealous. Marion, it's only a matter of time before I get down to the coast and we can meet up and do a video. Elevator fan, my parents and I can take you out for lunch this Saturday, and that sounds absolutely lovely, Elevator fan. I am looking forward to it, my friend. Okay, awesome. So presentation, we'll get over to the presentation. We'll get through that 10 or 12 minutes. We'll come back, spend the remainder of the hour, answer your questions, passing a driver's test, becoming a safer, smarter driver, or starting your career as a truck or bus driver. Will help you with all that. So we're talking about long road trips. The first thing you need to do is you need to kind of sit down with Google and you need to kind of figure out how far you're going to drive, okay? You need to understand that if you're going to drive sort of 300 to 400 miles a day, that's going to be 6 to 8 hours of driving, okay, on the interstate freeways. And you need to figure out what kind of roads you're going to be driving on, because if you're driving on state roads, 2-lane skinnies as they're called in the trucking industry, then it's going to take you longer. It's going to be more time as opposed to driving on the interstates and freeways, right, which is what I'm going to be doing down in the U.S. I'm traveling on the interstate system in the United States. So it's going to be, I'm looking at doing 500-600 miles a day, okay, which is a big day. It's 8 to 10 hours, especially if I'm stopping for meals and breaks and stopping to shoot videos and those types of things. So plan your trip accordingly with that amount of time in place, And as well, once you figure out what your legs of your trip are going to be, how you're going to break it up, how many miles a day you're going to drive, especially if you're traveling in the summertime, book your accommodations early. Decide what, are you going to camp? I mean, that's a possibility. Are you going to get yourself a minivan that you're going to put a bed in and a mattress? You're going to get yourself a pickup truck. You're going to put a mattress in the back of your pickup truck, or you're going to camp, or those types of things. Right, because if you're camping, then you got to book campsites. If you're getting hotels and accommodations, you have to book accommodations. So I've booked all my accommodations. I did that 2-3 weeks ago. Booked all my accommodations. If you're at least bit concerned or have, you're one of those anxious people, as some of us are, then you want to book. You want to confirm, right? And one of the things, because I'm going into the U.S. and I don't have, I may or may not have access to internet, I have printed out all my confirmation numbers from my hotels, and I know the exact address that I'm going to go. Now, at one and the same time, I'm going to pay the extra money for my phone plan, so I have access to my GPS in the United States, right? And I can tether my phone to my computer and have access to internet regardless of what the access to the internet is in the hotels and those types of things. For those of you new to Smart Drive Test, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver in the 1990s, hauled freight between Ontario, Canada, and the United States, mostly up and down the eastern seaboard, east of the Mississippi. I did make it out to California and some of the Midwestern states. Made it into Nebraska once. And if you look at the United States in a map of Omaha, there's Nebraska in the east, and then there's these dots on the state map, and I think those are cows for the other, 3/4 western Omaha. But, Omaha, Wyoming, Idaho, some of those places, there's not a lot of people that live out in some of those western states, but, they're there and they're great. Okay, 1997, in a bid to try and come off the highway and stop being a truck driver, I became a licensed commercial driving instructor. In the early 2000s, I went back to university to finish my degree and kept on going and went and did a doctorate degree in Australia and graduated in 2006 with a doctorate in legal history, which is the study of policing, prisons, and courts. My expertise is in policing as it relates to traffic. While I was going to university in Australia, in my time in university, I drove for Greyhound and one of the regional bus lines there as well, so I have coach experience there. And that's actually a picture of me in 2002, April 2002. I remember the exact, almost to the day when that picture was taken, me with hair, and I was still in training at that juncture. I hadn't started driving by myself. 2015, I started the online YouTube channel and the business, and it has wildly more successful than I ever could have imagined. All right, stuff to have a look at, freeway driving tips to drive on the interstate, the freeway, the motorway to keep yourself safe, and car care and maintenance. Have a look at those, and we'll go over car care and maintenance again in September when we resume with the live streams. All right, winter car care. Winter car care, all the tips and strategies from this video are the same. Check all the fluid levels under the hood. Check the tire pressure, check that your tires don't have any uneven wear, that there's no cracks, bumps, or lumps on them. And check your wiper blades, make sure that those work, okay? Wipers work, and washer fluid squirts. Make sure that works. As Mallory said this morning, make sure that you check all the lights on your vehicle. Make sure that the reverse lights work, your tail lights work, your parking lights work, your brake lights work. So check all those, your high-low beams, make sure that you don't have high-low beams out and those types of things. And the other piece of this in terms of making sure that your vehicle is working, for those of you who are in the United States coming up to Canada, or for those of us who are Canadians going down to the United States, for example, I'm going down in the morning, you're going across the border. Okay, so when I get up in the morning, I'm going to shave, I'm going to put on some nice clothes, and you get to the border, and I'll go through the border. I'll have the cameras running when I'm going across the border, and you can see what you do, right? Roll your window down, take your sunglasses off, turn your headlights off as you approach the booth. come up, shut your vehicle off, talk to the officer, simply answer his or her questions when you're going across the border. And we can talk more about this in the discussion, but we'll get through the rest of the presentation. But that's essentially what you want to do at a border crossing, okay? You don't want to be sent back from trying to go across the border. All right, navigation, as I said in the introduction, do a bit of work before you head out, figure out how far you're going to be driving. Google Maps, mile markers are excellent. I know that we get a bit lazy in this day and age with GPS and our phones and those types of things, but if you can find the mile markers, mile marker 83, it's going to make you a lot safer when you're driving out on the interstates and freeways. Because if you're at 284 and you know that you're looking for 274, you're going to be 10 miles up the road that you're going to be getting off the roadway. Okay, get help, plan brakes. If you do get lost, pull over into a safe place. Do not pull over on the side of the interstate. Do not pull over on the side of the highway. Those are not safe places. Get up to an intersection, turn the corner, those types of things and whatnot. Okay, children, figure out what the kids are going to be doing in the car. What is their participation? Are they listening to books and those types of things? If you stop and look and get lost, as I said, stop, figure out where you're going and how to get back. Now, the nice thing about GPS and your phones and those types of things, when you do get off the route, that a little annoying voice will come back on and say, return to the route, return to the route, return to the route. So that happens. All right, activities for the kids, audiobooks. As I said, I went down to the library, I got myself some audiobooks, and the great thing about these audiobooks is that they're 8, 10, 12 hours for you to get through a novel, for somebody to read it to you while you're driving. So lots of time to listen to an audiobook and get yourself engaged, and it keeps your brain active when you're driving and reduces fatigue. Games, what kind of games can you play with the kids? Car bingo, right? As in the movie Michael. You can play I Spy My Little Eye, those types of things, right? Accessibility to items, drinks, food, blankets, pillows, those types of things. Prescription medication if you are on prescription medication and those types of things. All right, preparation. Food, drink, and pets in the vehicle if you're traveling with pets. And this is one of the things I do encourage you to crate train your pets, because you can put them in a crate. They're comfortable. They're not anxious or nervous. They're not bouncing around inside of the car and those types of things. So crate train your pet. Figure out where they're going to be. Assign roles, the front passenger. If you're going down Smythe Street, you're looking for the hotel, and you're going to turn left at the road with the McDonald's, then the kids can be looking for the McDonald's and those types of things. Blankets and pillows in the vehicle. Same thing, we were doing the long road trip when we were in Australia last fall. And of course, to get into the airport, we're tired. We've been on the plane for almost 20 hours at that juncture, and we get in the car and we're on the other side of the road, and I had to get the kids to say left side of the road, left side of the road, left side, and keep reiterating that so that I stayed on the left side of the road so that I could transition back. So that's another piece of this. Prescription medication, know what its effects are, know what time of the day that you can take it and those types of things. Yeah, that's my favorite, Marion, is make a U-turn when possible. All right, so prescription medications, have a phone charger in your vehicle. This is the other piece I had to go down and get, was the adapter so that I could plug my phone in the car and keep it charged when I'm driving. Cruise control. If you don't know how to use cruise control, teach yourself how to use cruise control. It is not hard. And one of the reasons I think that a lot of people get into trouble or they feel powerless when they have cruise control on is they don't know how to effectively cancel it. Almost all cruise controls have a cancel button. Unless it's an older vehicle, it will not have a cancel button. Hover your thumb over the cancel button when you're driving and figure out where that is so that it becomes muscle memory that you can just reach up and cancel the cruise control. Okay, you can hit the brakes to cancel the cruise control, but I recommend that you don't. Learn how to use the cancel button on the vehicle. And also figure out that when you set, if you click that down, the vehicle will slow down 1 mile an hour, 1 kilometer an hour for every time you click it. Same thing with resume. If you click it up 1 click at a time, it will go up 1 mile an hour, 1 kilometer an hour every time. And then of course you have the resume as well, which will go back to the speed. So if you come into a town off a highway, you mosey through town, and then you get to the other side of town, you can hit resume on the cruise control and it will go back to the speed that you had set it to previously. The reason I say cruise control is because it reduces distracted driving. It's one of the things that's going to reduce the amount of fatigue you experience when you're driving. So learn how to use cruise control. If you have adaptive cruise control and lane assist, even better, okay? Because it's as close as you're going to get to an autonomous vehicle. Night driving. Drowsy drivers rest in pieces. I can't say that any clearer, okay? If you are tired, pull into a rest area, get yourself some sleep, and get a bit of kip, because that is the only way that you're going to stay awake. You know, chewing your fingernails, drinking coffee, loud music, none of that is going to keep you awake. Do that. Pull into a rest area, get some sleep, lock the doors, and police officers are not going to bother you, okay? They would rather have you in a rest area sleeping in your car than out on the roadways. You know, they might knock on your door and those types of things if they think that you've been drinking, but generally people who are in rest areas along interstates and those types of things have not been drinking, okay? And if you do go back to your car and you decide that you are too drunk to drive, do not fall asleep in the driver's seat, okay? Because you can be charged with a DUI falling asleep drunk in the driver's seat, okay? If you do, get in the back of the car or get in the passenger seat and fall asleep. Do not get in behind the wheel, because police officers will think that potentially you were driving the vehicle and were under the influence. Take breaks every couple of hours when you're driving. Plan your breaks when planning for exercises and playgrounds. If you have the pet with you, your dog or whatnot, then plan for a place where you can stop and they can get out and go for a run. Playgrounds where kids can get out and work at the playgrounds and those types of things. And we did this when the kids were younger. When we were driving back and forth from Vancouver Island, we would stop at the playground in Hope, and there was a nice play area there that the kids could get out and play and those types of things. And there was a coffee shop there. We can go and get coffee and snacks and whatnot. So restaurant food is heavy. Do not sit down at McDonald's and eat 3 hamburgers and a big thing of fries and a milkshake, okay? Because that's just going to make you tired and sleepy when you get back in the vehicle. Pay attention to your circadian rhythms. Know in the afternoon around 2 to 5 in the afternoon that you're going to have a dip and you're going to feel really tired when you're driving. So if you can avoid that, that's going to be better. I would suggest that you graze over the course of the day, rice cakes and carrots and those types of things in the vehicle. That is going to be better and help you to manage your fatigue while you're driving. Comfort in clothing. Take off big jackets and those types of things. Wear a t-shirt when you're sitting in the vehicle. Of course, you're going to have all the creature comforts. Air conditioning. This was another thing on the van that I had to get fixed before I took off. Was I had to get the air conditioning fixed because out on the interstate and highway, you don't want the windows down because it is very noisy, and noise contributes to fatigue. So if you can get the air conditioning fixed, then it's nice and comfortable in the vehicle, and you're going to be able to drive longer distances. All right. Emergency clothes in the vehicle in case you spill your drink on your lap or those types of things. Okay. Back supports. If you need back supports, lumbar supports and whatnot, have those in the vehicle as well. And accessibilities to CDs, medications, and your prescription glasses if you need those to drive. All right, emergency stops and breakdowns. As I said, do not stop on the side of the interstate, the freeway, the motorway. These are dangerous, dangerous places. Go to the on-ramp or off-ramp rather, or some other place, because most of these off-ramps, especially if you're near an urban center or those types of things, there'll be a truck stop there or there'll be a fuel station or whatnot right off the interchange. So cell phone charging cable, because you want to have your cell phone charged if something happens, and have a survival kit in the vehicle, especially in the winter time. And I'll talk about the spare tire here during the discussion. Have good luck on your driver's test, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Spare tire. This is another piece of checking over your vehicle before you leave. As you know, I got involved in buying and selling some vehicles there in the summertime. We had this pickup truck here, and the newer vehicles have a winch system where they put the tire up underneath the back of the vehicle, and the Pontiac Montana is the same. The spare tire is up on a winch system underneath the vehicle, mounted under the vehicle. So the pickup truck had the spare tire underneath it, and I couldn't get it down. I went in there one day to try and get it down, and it wouldn't come down. Took it into the shop, we lubed it, we put anti-rust spray on it and those types of things. I took it back in the next day, nothing worked. It didn't, we couldn't get the tire down. We had to cut it out with an acetylene torch. And Doug, the automotive technician, said to me that he's cut out like 30, 40 of these tires out of these vehicles up underneath because they get up there and nobody takes them down. You don't need a spare tire, you know, for whatever reason. And they get up underneath there for 5 or 10 years and they've never been taken down. They'd never been lubricated. So the first thing that I did on the van after we had to cut the spare tire out of the truck was I made sure I took it into the garage and I cranked the spare tire down. I got it in there and I lubed the winch system on it, made sure everything worked. Because I didn't want to break down on the side of the road and not be able to get the spare tire out from underneath the vehicle. So that's what I did. So make sure that your spare tire works as well. And in keeping with that, your spare tire, making sure that it works, if you have AAA or CAA or some roadside assistance, if they come out, the technician comes out, this is what they're going to use, the spare tire in the jack in your vehicle. Okay, so they have to have access to that. Otherwise, if you don't have a spare tire and you get a puncture in your tire or a flat tire, you're going to have to get your vehicle towed to a shop so they can fix it. Elevator fan, if you travel with pets, make sure you bring dog toys so that your dog can play fetch. Yes, excellent. And dog food and treats and all those wonderful things. You know, because Stryker's going with Tracy for the month. And, you know, I had to go and get all that stuff, all the dog food and whatnot. Marion, the only time I've had to use brakes on cruise control is when an idiot changed lanes in front of me suddenly. Yep, that'll make you use your brakes. Eric, hello, my friend from Eden Prairie, Minnesota. Very easy to use. Yes, it is, indeed. Dylan, I'm 19, been watching you the past few weeks to get my learner's permit. I took driver's ed in school so that it will they will waive the written test. I just want to make sure I have enough practice time. Awesome. That's great, Dylan. If you have any questions or we can help out, definitely drop us a note. We'll do what we can. Marion, I haven't gone through the border yet. A bit nervous about that. Marion, yeah, they want to be intimidating because they don't want you to do anything nefarious while you're going through the border. And I'm not going through the border. I'm not doing anything nefarious. And going back to DJ, how are you, my friend? New York driving instructor. Hello, my friend. Yeah, and years ago when we did the first Washington trip down to help Jen out, we went through the border and I made the mistake because the kids were still little, right? They were 4 and 7 at that time. And so we go down there, we get to the border, and I forgot to get the letter from their mom. So here I am with a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old trying to go through the border. And of course, she's overseas, so we can't just call her and have her say, oh, it's okay that he takes the kids through the border, right? So it turned out to be this whole thing. And then, of course, less is more, right? When they ask you questions, less is more. We're just going down to see some friends. That's all we're doing. It's the same thing when I go down tomorrow. I'm just going through the States to take the van to my mom's, right? Not even taking the van to my mom's. I'm going home and I'm traveling through the States to Ontario. That's it. That's all you say. Less is more. And so I'm at the border. I got 2 little kids, and of course I told them, oh, I'm going down to shoot a video for my YouTube channel, blah, blah, blah. And of course they're like, well, you have to pay a fee to shoot in the United States. And I'm like, oh my God, right? And then of course we're there for about 20 minutes. We got pulled inside. They're asking us questions. I'm answering the questions as best I can. And then the customs officer came out to me and said, can I look in your car? And I said, yeah, sure, here. And so I handed her the key to the car. And she went out, looked at the car, came back in, and she's like, why are there a whole bunch of beer cans under your seat? I kind of chuckled and I said, well, this was back when we're still collecting cans and bottles to save money for the next trip. But basically we were saving cans and bottles at the time to go to Australia. And they get picked up, thrown in the car, and they kind of rattle around in the car and they never got taken out, right? And so I explained this to her that this is what we were doing. And I said, they never got taken out. And I said, you can tell, I'm not drinking and driving because they're all different kinds of bottles and cans and those types of things. But that was the one question that she asked me. And then she holds up my key, my single car key. And she says, why do you just have a single car key? And I said, because I don't like the keys rattling in my ignition when I'm driving. So I just have the one key that goes into the ignition. So all these questions, and then, we couldn't get along, but the kids were like, they were totally fine. They knew that they knew their mom's phone number. They could tell the customs officer that. They didn't separate us and take us into separate rooms and those types of things. I mean, sometimes they'll do that, but the story checked out. And then finally, after about 40 minutes of sitting in, and my kids are like, why aren't we going? And, that little 7-year-old, we don't know the world kind of thing, but we're gonna go up against it kind of thing. And, so finally they let us go and into the States, and away we went, and nothing became of it. But so if you're traveling as a single parent, and you're taking your children across the state, across into the United States, or vice versa, coming from the United States into Canada, make sure that you get the letter from your spouse that says that you can travel with the kids, okay? Otherwise, you're in for a lot of questioning when you get to the border. And then, of course, traveling back and forth during COVID, and they had the whole goofy app, CAN app, what was it called? The CAN app that you had to fill out and all those types of things. So that too. All right. All right. So planning your driver's trip, make sure you have all your clothes and those types of things. Camera gear, of course, this is the other thing that I'm trying to put together, is all the, my camera bag for shooting videos and whatnot. Make sure that I have everything. And I have new microphones as well, which I'm really super excited about. Wireless Rode microphones. I've been looking at those for quite a while. So that's the new thing in my kit. Carrie, thinking about meeting you is exciting and looking forward to watching all your new videos as a long road trip through the United States. Awesome. Thank you. Yes, Marion, thank you. ArriveCan, the ArriveCan app, which was in the news for a long time about how much money that company made from the government and how much they charged for it. Was it some crazy amount of money, like $60 million or something for ArriveCan? It was some goofy app. Too funny. Yes, Carrie, it's going to be awesome. Looking forward to it very much. Okay, DJ Arch. So yeah, long road trips. Plan your road trips before. Get all your stuff together. Make sure that you have all the stuff in the vehicle. Whatever you want to do, podcasts, make sure you have those downloaded on your phone. If you don't have a USB connection in your car, some of the older vehicles will not have USB connectors. I do not have one in the buggy. I retrofitted the stereo some years ago, so the new stereo system came with a USB port. So it's more modern than the van. And the van has 2 of the cigarette lighters. And so there's one in the back and one in the front. I thought maybe there might be one, mid-van, but there's not. So I had to go out and buy an adapter for that. Because the other piece about it that's a pain in the butt with the van is that my dash cam takes up that port at the front. So the other stuff all has to go in the back. So I'm going to have to stop quite a bit and be changing stuff out to keep camera batteries charged and those types of things. Now, if you have other people with you, obviously they can reach over the back and they can do that stuff with messing around and plugging stuff in and whatnot. But freeway tips, interstate tips, of course, space management, stay out of the clusters when you're driving. And I'm looking forward to driving through Montana. As I said, I haven't been through Montana in 30 years. I haven't been there since the 1990s. When I first started driving truck between Ontario, Canada and Vancouver, British Columbia, and we used to go through the States. We used to get a transit permit on the truck. Essentially what you would do is you would go into U.S. Customs. You would have paperwork to fill out for a transit permit. They would fill out the permit. I don't remember if there was a cost. There probably was a cost, $10 or $20 or something. And then they would come out and they would seal the trailer with seals. Not like, not those kind of seals, but like a metal seal. And these little clips on there that had to be cut off. And then you would travel through the States. You would come to the American Customs on the other side when you got to Blaine, Washington. And they would come out, check, make sure all the seals were still in contact. And then you would go back into Canada. And same thing. So, so that's basically what I'm going to do is travel through the States. And the other thing is it's faster because of the interstate system. And, in addition, fuel is less expensive in the States. I'll be interested to see how much less fuel is. And talking about fuel, long road trips, do not let your engine, do not let your fuel tank run less than a quarter of a tank, okay? And do not let your fuel tank run less than a quarter of a tank. And 3 years ago when we drove across Canada, we were coming through Regina. You know, I was getting about 3/8 of a tank on the buggy, and I thought, okay, I'll get fuel when I'm in Regina. Of course, the Trans-Canada just skirts Regina, the capital of Saskatchewan, so there's no fuel station. And of course, this was another thing that I picked up here was, you know, still learning a little bit about tech, and there's some things that take me a little bit longer than other people. Anyway, we stopped somewhere to ask these people, and there's a fuel station up the road there. So then we drove like 5 or 10 miles up this side road, get to this old beat up convenience station. You know, it's obvious that the fuel pumps aren't working. So I went inside. There's these 2 lovely Asian women in there that were immigrants, obviously. And the fuel pumps don't work. Do you know where there's a fuel station nearby? And they're like, no. And so then, you know, my mom, being old school, is like, oh, just go into the farmer and ask them for some fuel. But I knew I was okay because the low fuel light had not yet come on the buggy. And once you get down on low fuel, if you haven't experienced this yet, the low fuel light will come on. And when the low fuel light comes on, you have 40 miles or 60 kilometers left of fuel in your tank. So I knew that I still had a little ways to go, right? So then I finally figured out and realized that, you know, on the app, the Google Map app on your phone, you can click fuel stations nearby. And it will tell you where the next fuel station is. And I clicked that in, and it was like 3 miles away was the next fuel station. So, a little bit of time with technology, right? But that's another thing that you can do. Eric, gas in Minnesota is $3.39 a gallon. So I'm guessing that it's going to cost me half of what it does here in Canada to fill up in Minnesota and other places in the United States. Because when I filled the van up, it was at a quarter tank. It cost me $100 Canadian to fill it up. Now, I have American money. Of course, I have American money. This is the other piece that you got to keep in mind if you're traveling between countries, the United States and Canada. Canada is not the 51st state, okay? We have different Canadian money, and it's funny colors. It's not just that one monotone green that the Americans have, you know. But you got to get currency exchange too, right? Or you got to get a credit card that's an American credit card, or U.S. money that you can take into the United States. So this is the other piece that I had to figure out, because last week I applied for a U.S. credit card, got approved for it, but it didn't show up on leaving. So then today I had to go to the bank and get some cash so that I could afford to buy fuel and pay for hotel rooms and those types of things in the States. Eric, a can or two of Seafoam 305 at Costco. Eric, you're hurting me here, because, you know, Seafoam, I bought some Seafoam and put that in as an additive, a fuel additive into the van, because my brother told me that. $3.05 at Costco. I paid $12.50 for that on sale here. $12.50. 3 times the price. So, yeah, exactly what Carrie said. Different states are going to have different fuel prices. And it was the same thing when we drove across Canada. When we got to Northern Ontario, I thought that fuel was going to be significantly less expensive than it is here in British Columbia. In fact, once I got to Northern Ontario, it's kind of like driving in Northern Minnesota. Fuel was expensive, really expensive. So as Carrie just said, fuel is going to be different prices in different places. Now, there are apps, right? Gas Buddy is one of the apps that you can look at that will give you the lowest fuel prices for the area that you're in. But I am looking forward to $3.50 a gallon for fuel. We are definitely going to be putting premium fuel in the van on the trip across there. Marion, question on my HRV. I have lines on the fuel gauge on the dash. I have not had the fuel light come on yet as I let it go to lines I fill up. How many lines will it be for the quarter tank? Okay, I'm not. Probably the first line, you know, it depends, Marion. It's probably the first 2 lines at the bottom. The first and second is probably your quarter tank on there. Yeah, don't let it go below a quarter tank. The other thing about this, and the reason that you don't let it go below a quarter tank, is the fuel pump. Modern fuel pumps are in the fuel tank, and they are cooled and lubricated by the liquid in which they sit, i.e. the fuel in the tank. And if you let it run below a quarter of a tank, the fuel sloshes around in the tank and the fuel pump becomes exposed and it runs hot. And if you do this on a constant basis where you're always letting the fuel tank run to the bottom, eventually you're going to prematurely, wear out your fuel pump. And fuel pumps are not cheap. Depending on the vehicle that you have, I've heard of like Dodge Rams 1500s. The fuel pump is like $600 or $800 to replace the fuel pump. Know that, okay? Keep it above a quarter tank. I know that there are people out there who incessantly run it below a quarter tank. That is hard on your fuel pump, and you're prematurely going to wear out the fuel pump. Nerd, hey, I'm finally back from my first long road trip down the West Coast from Vancouver to Vegas. It was so much fun. Unreal. Awesome. And when would the tank light come on? Marion, you would be right down at the bottom bar for the low fuel light to come on. Now, when the low fuel light comes on, you're 40 miles. You have 40 miles left in the tank, or 60 kilometers when you run out of fuel. So Eric is saying fuel is $3.05 a gallon at Costco. There are approximately 4 liters. 3 bars. Yes, there you go. Excellent. Not Seafoam at Costco. Gas is $3.05, not Seafoam. Okay, so Seafoam is something more expensive, but Seafoam is a really good additive. Even my brother endorsed it. I was talking to him and he said put some Seafoam in it, so I got Seafoam in it. I got all the good stuff. Change the oil in it. That's the other thing you want to do if you're going to be doing a long road trip, as such as I am, which is 3,200 miles, 4,000 kilometers. Change the oil before you go. Okay, it's just the vehicle will just love you that much more. So I changed the oil on the vehicle before I left. New filter, and it's ready to go. All right. So yeah, and Corey's put up the video. He found the video on running the fuel pump below a quarter tank. That is indeed an old video, probably one that I should redo. Yeah, it's funny you're digging up some old relics there, Corey, in terms of running the fuel pump between below a quarter tank. I'd actually start laughing when I saw that video and how old it is. Excellent. Okay. So yes, make sure you got fuel. Know that fuel is going to be a different price. Check out your vehicle before you leave. Interstates and freeways, get the mile markers, okay? Stop, have a look, check on your phone, figure out where the mile markers are, how far you're going to be driving, and those types of things. Keep yourself safe. Have a survival kit, have a charge cord for your phone, and get a holder for your phone. I held out for a long time getting a cell phone holder for my vehicle, but they're inexpensive. Okay. In my experience, maybe your experience is different. Some of the smart drivers can leave a comment down below about the magnet cell phone holders. I had one of those initially. It only lasted about a year, and then the magnet didn't work anymore. Now I have an iPhone Pro. It's a 14 Pro, so it's a bigger cell phone. So maybe the smaller cell phones, it works just fine. I went to one that clips into the vent and then screws in firmly, and it cradles. So it's got a bottom piece and 2 sides on the cell phone holder that I use, and it is much better. Much better. It works really well. Mario, any suggestions to find parking at truck stops? Truck stops are packed. Mario, don't believe the rhetoric. Okay? Truck stops are not packed. And besides, there's lots of other places to park other than at truck stops. If you're insisting on going in a truck stop at 8 o'clock at night, you're not going to find a spot, obviously, because everybody else is in there. Then you're going to have to know that you're going to have to go to a rest area. But this is something that has come up in trucking circles in the last 5 years, and it's all that anybody talks about is the fact that there isn't any parking in truck stops. When I drove truck, I didn't really have a whole lot of trouble. I didn't spend a lot of time in truck stops. I went into truck stops to get fuel. Most of the time there was parking, especially during the day. There's always parking in truck stops. But if you come in the truck stop at 7 to 10 o'clock at night and you're expecting to find a spot, it's not likely that you're going to have to find a spot. So you have to plan your trips accordingly and know that you're either going to stop at a rest area and you're going to park in the rest area and sleep there, or you're going to go to a truck stop and park. So it's you know, it's just one of those things that you're going to have to figure out. But when I was driving truck in the 1990s, you know, I never really had a problem finding a parking spot. But I also knew that 7 to 10 o'clock at night, if I went into a truck stop, I wasn't going to find a spot. I just knew that. So I just went down to the rest area and parked down at the rest area. Or I found someplace else to park and stop for the night. Nerd, I have the same cell phone holder with wireless charging. Even better if you have wireless charging, even better. I did change it in LA at Valvoline Instant Oil Change. So much better than those shady oil change stops in Canada. Sad that they don't have it. Nerd, yes. I don't know. It was one of those Jiffy Lube places that they changed the oil in on the van the last time. And of course, the oil plug and the filter, I had to take a pair of pliers to get the filter off. It was so tight. And it doesn't need to be that tight. You put the filter on, you put it on hand tight. That's it. You know, once it makes contact, it just needs to go another third to make that seal between, you know, the plate and the filter. You don't have to wind the thing on there until you can't turn it anymore. Same thing with the plug. The plug is only like less than 20 pounds of torque. So there you go. Epic, my friend. Play close attention to trucks prohibited signs starting next month. College students are moving into their dorms. Additionally, pay close attention to rest stop signs that ban commercial vehicles, black and whites. Yes, lots of signs, lots of stuff to pay attention to. And somebody was on my CDL sign video there a little while back, and they said they wanted a comprehensive video of all the CDL commercial signs. The reality is there aren't a lot of commercial signs that you need to pay attention to when you're driving truck. There are basically 3 signs that you need to pay attention to when you're driving truck. And the first one will save your life. Grade signs. You need to understand what a grade sign is, right? What the percentage is of the hill. If it's over 10%, if it's double digit and more than a mile long, then you need to really pay attention to that, and you need to gear down. You need to figure out how to get down the hill safely without experiencing brake fade. Grade signs will save your life as a truck driver, as a commercial vehicle driver, and you need to understand those. The second sign you need to understand is height signs, right? 13 feet 6 inches, 4.15 meters. If your truck is taller than that, or the bridge is shorter than that, you can't go under it, okay? 13 feet 6 inches, 4.15 meters, height signs. And then do not enter signs, trucks prohibited signs. Those are the 3 signs that you need to pay attention to as a truck driver. If you pay attention to those 3 signs, you're going to be just fine. Okay? There aren't too many other signs. And the last piece of advice for CDL drivers driving buses and trucks, stay away from buildings, stay away from trees. Buildings and trees like to take bites out of trucks and buses. And when I was driving in Sydney, Australia, driving coaches, there was a driver, and you would stop at the depot or the terminal to let the passengers off, and then you went to the depot. And the depot in Sydney, Australia, you drove in, and then you had to drive around the back of a building, which was a very narrow lane. It was between the building and there was a canal there. And then you had to drive straight out, and until the bus was completely past the building, then you turn left and park the bus. And I came into the depot one night, and it's late, and there's another driver there, and I talked to him a few times before, and I look up. He's standing outside his bus, and he's looking up at the glass, and the glass on the back of the bus, for 2 or 3 panes of the glass, is all broken. And I looked at him and I said, "What happened, mate?" He said, "Oh, I went past the building. I cut it too short." And he clipped the building, and he took the whole side. He scraped the whole side of the bus and broke a couple of panes of glass out of the thing. And it was just like, I looked at him and I just, I was gobsmacked. I just thought, how did you not know that? You know that building, it is super tight there, and you have to drive straight out as far as you can, right? But maybe he was tired and he made a mistake and he cut it too soon. Nerd, height signs remind me of all the overpass hits in Lower Mainland thanks to Chokin Trucking. Chohan Trucking. Yes, indeed. And it happens a lot more than people would think that trucks and buses hit overpasses. Epic, if you were driving in New York City and the Watch out for the black and white signs because it would say trucks prohibited, passenger cars only on parkways outside of the Northeast. This is used sparingly. Yes, trucks are not allowed on parkways in New York State and other places. And the reason they're not allowed on parkways is because the lanes are so much narrower and there are many, many overpasses that are not 13 feet 6 inches. Actually, I would argue that most of them probably are not 13 feet 6 inches. Taken off the road, thank goodness. Okay, excellent. Yes, well, and it's not just that truck company. It's a lot of other trucking companies too that, hit overpasses and whatnot. Commercial drivers on the Coquihalla, they fly down that long hill and most often come short just before the snow shed. Marion, that first part of the Coquihalla coming down over the top there has to be one of the steepest grades anywhere. And you mess that up with a set of B trains, Super Bs, weighing out at 140,000 pounds, you better have your ducks in a row before you come out over the top there. Okay, excellent. So 3 signs that you need to pay attention to as a commercial driver. Grade signs, height signs, and trucks prohibited signs. And I was delivering in Brooklyn years ago, and I was looking for a street that I could go down to get to the address. It was more challenging when I was driving truck because we were delivering office furniture for Steelcase. And you would often be in a downtown area. Oftentimes we ended up in Manhattan, right off Broadway. And so I'm driving on the main thoroughfare and I knew that I had to turn right. So I get to the first street, I look up the street, I see and of course, where the trucks prohibited signs are is around the corner. It's not on the street that you're on, that you're wanting to turn onto this street. It's not until you turn onto the street that the truck prohibited sign is there. So this truck prohibited sign is around the corner. So I'm slowing down and I'm looking up the street trying to find the trucks prohibited sign. So I come past the first street, there's a truck prohibited, can't go up that sign, can't go up the next one. And the third one, there's no trucks prohibited sign. I didn't see one. So I turn up the street and go up the street. Well, the police are there pulling commercial vehicles over. And of course they pulled me over and they wanted to see my logbook and they wanted to look at my permits and those types of things. And they were asking me, they said, well, where are you going? And so I showed them the address where I was going. I said, this is where I'm going. And I said, this was the only street that didn't have a trucks prohibited sign on it. I said, the 2 north of here both had trucks prohibited sign. And of course, they had a whole bunch of local trucks pulled over as well. And all the local trucks knew the area and knew that they shouldn't be on that road. Me, on the other hand, was obvious from out of town because I was delivering from Ontario, Canada, and I was in Brooklyn trying to do a delivery of office furniture. And they looked at my logbook, they looked at my license, and they realized that I was from out of town. In fact, there wasn't a trucks prohibited sign at the intersection where I turned onto the street to go up the road. And, they let me go. And they said, just keep an eye out for trucks prohibited signs. But it's challenging driving in Brooklyn and the other boroughs in New York City in a truck and trailer. Because as you know, space is limited and auto shops, timber mills, those types of things, they all work out onto the roadway. And so you have to figure out how to get up there and get enough space so you can get your semi-truck and trailer around on those roadways. Park at hotels or shopping lots for semis. Eric, they tend to frown on it if you're parking at hotels and other places. I did that in New Jersey once. I parked in a hotel parking lot and I was in the back corner. I wasn't, up taking space and those types of things. And I was sleeping and then I get a bang on the door of the truck and I come up. I didn't unlock the door. I didn't roll down the window. And the guy's hanging off the side of the truck and he's like, roll down the window. And I'm like, no, not going to roll down the window. There's 3 of you out there and there's only 1 of me in here and I'm in my underwear. And so they're yelling through the glass. They're like, you can't stay here. You have to move. I said, that's fine. I'll move. But, it's a lot more challenging in the eastern United States to find parking. There's no doubt about it. And companies do not want you parking on their property. And hotels do not want you parking in their lots. Even Walmart frowns on you. But, there were many years that I did it where I was parking in hotel parking lots and malls and those types of things. BC license suspended. Alberta trucks can still enter BC loophole. Okay, excellent. You're having a conversation there off the road. Excellent. Yes. So driving trucks, long road trips. Okay. So make sure that you have plenty of drinks. Keep yourself hydrated when you're driving, looking far down the road, keeping that space, staying out of the clusters, taking breaks when you need to, driving at night, animals on the roadway and whatnot, because there's going to be animals on the roadway. And the technique that I use driving at night, especially now, this is like the wee hours of the morning. This is like after midnight. Generally, if there's 2 lanes on the interstate and there isn't a lot of traffic, I will sit on that center line driving with the center line coming down the roadway. I just find it a lot easier. And as well, I will hang back about a mile from a car in front of me. And I call that my animal buster, because if there's an animal that's going to run out on the roadway, they're going to run out in front of the car in front of me. And once I get there, there's not going to be an animal there. So that's another technique that I do when I'm driving at night. And it's dark and I am driving after midnight hours. Jose, my first language is Spanish. I am not sure about my driver's test. Jose, you're going to be just fine. Where are you in the world? Are you in California, my friend? There are some driver's test centers where you can do your driver's test in Spanish, my friend. Okay, so check into that in the state or province where you're located, Jose, and that'll help you out. All right. Road tests, road trips, long road trips. Go on Google, figure out the legs, book your hotels well in advance. Get all your nits and bits that you need for the trip. As I said, I'm crazy running around right now. Make sure that you bring your passport if you're traveling across countries from one country to the other, from Canada to the United States or vice versa, the United States into Canada and whatnot. Passports, identification, make sure you have your driver's license with you, prescription glasses if you need them. Charging cord for your phone, make sure that your vehicle is in tip-top shape and whatnot. What do you think about those whistle things that warn wildlife of oncoming vehicles? Marion, they don't work. They don't work, okay? And if Tim was here from Drive Smart BC, he will support that 100%. They do not work. And the other, like I said, the best tip, if you get out on the roadway at night, drive behind another vehicle. And just keep its taillights in sight and let it be about a mile ahead of you, especially if you're driving through the interior of British Columbia and other places. Definitely when I'm in Montana, I'm going to be driving behind somebody else and keeping their taillights inside. But hopefully I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of night driving because it doesn't get dark right now until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So I'm hoping that I'll be well snug as a bug in my hotel room by then. But saying that, I am leaving tomorrow at like 4 o'clock. So, I will be doing some early morning driving. And yeah. Eric, this is a perfect segue to your upcoming trip into the U.S., i.e. Minnesota. Yes, I am looking forward to coming to the Twin City there in Minnesota. So awesome. Long road trips. Plan on Google, get your map, your GPS, figure out your mile markers, where you're going to be getting on and off, where you're going to be having lunches, have food available, snacks, and those types of things when you're driving in the vehicle. Have lots of water. I'm also going to be bringing a thermos with me so I can have coffee. I love coffee. I'm a coffee fiend. Epic, I wonder if it's really worth bringing in the following: a portable jump start unit for batteries just in case. If you couldn't have another vehicle, jump cables, and a portable air compressor for long trips. Portable air compressor is a bit excessive, Epic. You can get those jump start units, but if you just carry a set of cables, jumper cables in the vehicle, the van actually came with a set of jumper cables, and survival kits will come with a set of jumper cables as well. You can just ask somebody to give you a boost, right? I mean, it just open the hood and pop them on, positive to positive, negative to negative, right? So it's really easy to do. You can look up a video on YouTube. I mean, I have one here too. It's a little bit crazy. I need to do a short on how to boost a vehicle, but it's super easy to do, right? And if you have some jumper cables in your vehicle, you're going to be just fine. So there you go. So get your vehicle good, get your vehicle checked out by an automotive technician if you're not good at checking tire pressure, checking the fluid levels under the hood and those types of things. And as well, they can check that, make sure everything else is working. The wheel bearings are good. You don't have things that could need to be replaced while you're out on the road. Nerd, another pro tip for driving in the U.S. Don't speed beyond 5 to 9 miles an hour over the speed limit. Enforcement there is more or less here in BC, even on completely deserted roads. Learned the hard way. Yes, stay within 5 miles an hour of the posted speed limit in the United States. You don't want to get a ticket there. Corey, for some reason in earlier years as a non-truck driver, I kind of thought those no truck signs were more meant as a cautionary. Hey, trucks, you do not want to come over here. No. Obstacles, tight turns rather than punitive. How dare you come down this road? Regulations, what do you think of them? No, Corey, those are actually the law. You cannot actually have a big truck on those roads. And it's for the very reasons that you said. Overhead power lines, telephone cables, all those types of things. And the roads are not rated for the weight, the extra weight of commercial vehicles. And also they're too narrow, right? There's trees, those types of things, all kinds of crazy things. And the reason I know this is because I work driving furniture trucks as well. And of course you have to get into these residential areas with a semi truck. So it's challenging to say the least. So there's these other reasons why you don't want to be driving a semi-truck. And those trucks prohibited? No, it's not a suggestion. It is regulation that you cannot go down those roads with a semi-truck. Nerd, I consistently saw highway patrol in the oncoming lane. And yes, Nerd, the other thing is, you know, police in British Columbia are sparse, to say the least. And, you know, when I go home to Ontario, I cannot believe the number of patrol cars out when I get there and start driving in Ontario. It's crazy. Marion, have an awesome trip and pleasant, be safe, take lots of videos and have lots of fun. We will look forward to seeing you back here in September. Awesome, my friend. Awesome. And we will see you in September. I am very much looking forward to seeing you then. So yes, no more live streams for the month of August. We will see you in September. If you had a driver's test in the last couple of weeks and past, congratulations. That is absolutely awesome news. And if you have a test coming up in the next couple of weeks or so, good luck on that. All the best. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great day. Bye now.